Hello everyone. Welcome you all to the live session of TOEFL. Here I, on the behalf of SIC Testmasters, welcome all of you. All of you who have queries related to the TOEFL, I hope they can get their questions solved or they can get their queries solved here. We will begin with our first slide. That is, now we will study different things in this session. That is, first is what is TOEFL, what is the difference between PT, IELTS, and TOEFL, and what are the different countries that accept TOEFL, what are the different modules that are in TOEFL, and as you all know, there are some upcoming changes in the TOEFL exam from 26th of July, so we will learn that also. Then we will study about the scoring of different modules, and at last we will discuss about the major change that is in the writing module. So next we will move to the next slide, that is basically TOEFL. Now, what is TOEFL? Now, TOEFL is the full form is Test of English as a Foreign Language. Now, it is one of the most widely used exam that is mainly to judge the person's proficiency in English language. It can be for the purpose of studying, working, as well as for the immigrating purpose. Now, mainly what is in TOEFL, that is, in this exam, they mainly judge your proficiency in English, that how well you are able to communicate in English. So, moving to the next slide, that is the features of TOEFL. Now, there are certain features of the TOEFL exam. That is, first is it provides the opportunity to prove that they can communicate the ideas effectively by simulating the university classroom and the student life communication. अब होता क्या है, टॉफल एग्जाम में जितने भी आपके, चाहे वो रीडिंग पैसेजेस हैं, चाहे वो लिसनिंग की कॉन्वर्सेशन है, दे आर द फ्रॉम द रियल यूनिवर्सिटी बेस्ड सिचुएशंस. सो जो स्टूडेंट है, दे गेट फेमिलियर विद द यूनिवर्सिटी आल्सो. Next is the language used in the TOEFL exam reflects the real life English language uses in university lectures, classes and laboratories. Same वही चीज जो लेक्चर्स में यूज की जाती है इंग्लिश, जो क्लासेस में लेबोरेटरीज में यूज की जाती है, वही सारी चीजें हम जो टॉफल के एग्जाम में वो रीड करते हैं. Next is it is the same language that the professors use when they discuss the coursework or concept with the students. अब जब भी जो लेक्चर्स हैं वो डिलीवर किए जाते हैं क्लासेस में, then the professors use the same English that is in the audios of the TOEFL listening module. अब वही रिकॉर्डेड लेक्चर्स जो हैं हमें लिसनिंग मॉड्यूल में दिए जाते हैं, जो वहां पे रियल क्लासरूम्स में डिलीवर किए जाते हैं. द नेक्स्ट इज it is the language students use in the study groups and everyday university situations. This is the same language that the students use in the foreign universities. And at last, the reading passages are from the real textbook and the course material. Now, in the reading module, whatever the text is there or whatever the reading passage is there, that is taken from the academics of the foreign universities. So, moving to the next slide, that is the comparison between the PT, IELTS, and TOEFL. So, there is a major difference between these three tests. These three tests are conducted to measure the proficiency in English, but there are certain differences between all of them. It can be related to the scoring system, or it can be related to the delivery of the exam, declaration of the result, or the organization that conduct this test. So, first is the score comparison. So, in case of PD, the scores are given from 10 to 90. It means the minimum is the 10 and the maximum is the 90 score. In case of IELTS, it is in the form of bands, that is from 0 to 9. But if we talk about the TOEFL, it is in the form of scores, that is from 0 to 120. Maximum is 120 that the student can get. So the next difference is regarding the duration of the exam. In case of PT, it is a single session of 2 hours. In case of IELTS, that is around 2 hours and 45 minutes, and it is delivered in two sessions. That is, the reading, writing, and listening is on separate day, and the speaking is on separate day. And if we talk about the TOEFL, it is a single day session that is for nearly 3 hours and 30 minutes, including a break that is mandatory of 10 minutes. The next difference is regarding the test availability. Now, if we talk about the PT academic, the test is conducted 365 days globally. It means you can give the test on any day. in case of IELTS and in case of TOEFL, there are certain fixed days only when you can give your exam. So, moving to our next slide, that is the format. Now, what is the format of the exam? What is the difference regarding the format in all the tests, that is PT, IELTS, and TOEFL? If we talk about the PT, here the test is in three parts. The speaking and the writing module is combined. The second part will be the reading, and the last one will be the listening. Now, talking about the IELTS, it is in the form of four modules, that is writing, reading, listening, and speaking. Speaking is on another day, as I mentioned earlier. Now, if we talk about the TOEFL, the sequence is changed. That is the reading, listening, speaking, and then writing. So, next difference is regarding the delivery. That is, if we talk about the PT, then it is 100% computerized based exam. That is, you give the exam on computer and the evaluation will also be done by the computer itself. If we talk about IELTS, it is of two types. That is, one is the pen paper and the another one is CDIELTS, that is computer delivered. Now, the pen paper is conducted by going to the exam center and is done with the help of pen and paper. And if we talk about the computer delivered, it is done on the computer. Now, talking about the TOEFL, it is also administered on the computer, but it is checked both automatically and by manually. It means it is a combination of the computerized checking as well as a manual checking. Now, the next difference is regarding the results availability. If we talk about the PT, then we can get the results in maximum 5 working days. Talking about the IELTS, the result is declared on the 13th day. And if we talk about TOEFL, it takes approximately 10 days. So, moving to our next slide, that is now organization. That such organization which conduct these tests. If we talk about the PT, as the name suggests, Pearson Test of English is conducted by Pearson. And if we talk about IELTS is conducted by IDP Educations. And if we talk about the TOEFL, it is conducted by ETS, that is Educational Testing Service. Next is difference regarding the exam fee. Now, PT is for INR 15,900. Talking about IELTS, it's INR 16,250. And talking about TOEFL, it is 16,035 INR. Now, moving to the next slide. Now, what are the different countries that accept TOEFL? Now, TOEFL is accepted almost worldwide. It means there are almost all the countries that accept the TOEFL as an entrance exam for the visa requirement as well as for the college requirement. Among those countries, there are certain countries like United States, United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Ireland. So, moving to our next slide, that is the different modules in TOEFL. Now, there are four modules, that is listening, reading, speaking, and writing. Now, moving to our next slide, that is the TOEFL test format. Now, here we will discuss about the old format as well as the new upcoming format that is from July 26th. Now, talking about the reading module in the old format that is being used currently. Here, there are 3 to 4 passages in case of reading module, and each passage contains 10 questions. It means 30 to 40 questions in total. And for those 30 to 40 questions, the students get 54 to 72 minutes. It means if there are 3 passages in the exam, there will be 54 minutes. And if there are 4 passages, then there will be 72 minutes. But as for the new format, after July 26th, there will only be 2 passages that will contain 20 questions in total, and the students will get 36 minutes for reading module. Coming to the listening, now currently there are 3 to 4 lectures following by the 6 questions each, and 2 to 3 conversations following by the 5 questions per conversation. Now it means there are total 28 to 39 questions in the listening module, and for this the student gets nearly 41 to 57 minutes. But as for the new format, there will only be 3 lectures and 2 conversations. It means there will total 28 questions get 36 minutes. Now, the main difference is, as per the new format, one experimental question, that is the unscored questions, has been eliminated from the reading as well as the listening sections. Now, moving to the next slide, talking about speaking. In speaking, currently there are four tasks and the student gets 17 minutes for it. There is no change here. In the new format also, there will be the four tasks that will remain same. Coming to the writing module, and currently there are two tasks, that is the integrated one and the independent one, and the student gets total 50 minutes for that. That is 20 for the integrated and the 30 for the independent. But as for the new format, the student will get only 30 minutes, and the second task, that is independent, has been replaced by a new task, that is writing for an academic discussion, for which the students will get 10 minutes. So the total time that is currently is approximately 3 hours, but as per the new format, the test will be completed under 2 hours only. So next slide, that is now we will talk about different skills and the different score ranges, that is how different modules are scored. So, talking about the first module, that is reading. Now, in case of reading, the scores are done out of 30. That is, the student gets scores minimum 0 and maximum 30. Talking about the listening, the same scores, that is from 0 to 30. Now, these two modules, that is reading and listening, the scoring is done computerized. It means the scores will be given by the computer. Whenever the student appear for the exam, after the completion of the exam, they get to know about the scores of the reading and listening on the spot because they are computerized. Now, moving to the writing and the speaking. Firstly, if we talk about the speaking, now it is from 0 to 30 score scale. Now, what is score scale? Score scale means, if we talk about the speaking, scoring of each and every question is given out of 4 manually. Then that score is converted into 30 by the scaling process of the compute. Same in case of writing. When it is taken manually, the scores are given out of 5, but with the scaling process of the computer, those scores are converted into 30. So it will be from 0 to 30, that is score scale. So ultimately, the total scores will be from 0 to 120, that is the minimum score is 0 and the maximum score that the student can get is 120. So moving to our next slide, that is the TOEFL writing. Now, this is that module in which there is a major change as per the upcoming changes. Now, there will be two tasks, integrated one, and the second will be writing for an academic discussion. So, moving to our next slide, that is in which we will talk about the integrated essay. Now, what is integrated essay and how does it work? So, it is the first writing task of the TOEFL test. First, you will have 3 minutes to read an article related to an academic topic. Means the student will be given an academic topic and they will be given 3 minutes to read the same. They can make the notes side by side. Next, you will listen to a lecture that will be about 2 minutes about the same topic. Then the students will listen to a lecture, they will make the notes. The length of the lecture will be nearly 2 minutes. They can do note making for the same. Next is finally, you will have 20 minutes to write an essay about the relationship between the two sources in about 280 words. Now, after listening to the lecture, students will be given 20 minutes in which they have to write about the relationship between the reading passage and the lecture they listen to in about 280 words. And the last, you can see the article while writing your essay, but you cannot hear the lecture again. Whenever the student is given time to write the response, at that time they can see the reading passage again, but the lecture that will not be played again. So, moving to our next slide. So, here we will discuss that how we can do the integrated task effectively. Now, as you can see, there is a question, there is a reading passage, which you have to read, and you can make notes side by side. You can even now take the screenshot of the same for your future references. So, after reading this for 3 minutes, there will be the lecture. Now, this is the transcript of the lecture. Now, moving to the next slide, there is a transcript of the same topic. So, next, after listening to it and after note making, we will move to the next slide in which we will learn how to make effective note making. So, what we need to do is we need to make a proper table by comparing the reading passage and our lecture. So we need to write one point of the reading passage, and in front of that, we need to write the contrasting or the point in favor of that in the lecture. Suppose in the reading passage, there is something written that is the traditional system of voting should be replaced with the computerized voting system. So we will write the counterpoint of the same that is made in the lecture. That is, it is not possible as some people do not have access to the computer, some even are unaware about its usage, and some are scared of using new technology. So we are writing the comparison. We are doing the comparison between the reading passage and the lecture. So in this way, we have to make comparisons of all the points. At least we need to make 3 points. So moving to our next slide. Now, this is the sample response that you can refer to. Students can write it effectively if they can read it. Now, there are certain phrases that they can use, like they have written first of all, then the next, starting the next paragraph, they can use secondly, then in the next slide, they can use thirdly, or while doing the conclusion, they can write all in all. So, these are the some phrases that helps them to get the good scores. So, moving to our next slide, that is writing for an academic discussion. Now, what is this question? Writing for an academic discussion. What is here in this question? Now, there will be students will read the lecture that is delivered by the professor, or even the question that is asked by the professor, and the different responses of various students. And after reading those responses, students are supposed uh, to give their own contribution towards the same. Now, this is the lecture that the professor delivered, and after that, in the next slide, we can see that Dr. Akeb has given some lecture, and then he has asked a question that would you choose as being important or why. Then there are certain responses of different students, that is of Paul and Claire. Then when we move to the next slide, now there is a sample response. Now you can even take the screenshot of this slide so that you can use this in your exam if you are planning to give it after 26th of July, because if you are planning to give it now, you will not get this question type in your exam. So what you just need to do, you just need to contribute towards the conversation. You just need to give your points, that what do you think about it, by giving the proper examples or by providing the proper reasons of the same. So moving to our next slide, that is what template we can use for the same. So firstly, we need to write the general statement about the topic of the conversation. After that, we need to give our opinion on the issue. In the third one, we need to acknowledge the point of view of one of the speakers in the conversation. And we need to explain why we agree or disagree with the reasons or the examples that has been provided. And at last, we need to summarize the main point of our post. So next, moving to our next slide, that is which lines we can use. Suppose for giving the general statement, we can use the line that is, the topic of this has generated much discussion in recent years. For giving the opinion, we can use that my personal belief is this, or then we can give the example for the same. For acknowledge the point, there is a certain examples that has been provided, and for summarize also, there is a specific line that the students can refer to. So moving to our next slide. Next is the time management. That is how we need to manage our time in this question type. So whenever we start writing it, for first 2 minutes, we need to scan the whole discussion and we need to plan that how we need to write, or even we can make the notes of for the same. Then in next 7 minutes, we need to write our essay. After that, in the last 1 minute, we just need to proofread it and make alterations as per the necessity. So, moving to our next slide. So, this is the end of our today's live session. So, hope the new changes that has been announced by ETS is clear to all of you. And in case still you have any kind of doubt here, you can just ask us anytime. You can comment us, or you can even DM us on Instagram, YouTube, and even you can follow our pages for more updates regarding different tests, that is regarding the IELTS, PT, TOEFL, SAT, GRE, GMAT, anything else. So, all the best to everyone who are planning to give their exams or who took their exams, or even to those also who are preparing for their exams. So, all the very best. Thank you.